community come to. I think last time we had it at the hospital. We visited there in the basement, back here this morning. I got to tell you, it's one of the most beautiful drives I've had in recent years. Driving from, I woke up this morning in Great Bend and to drive up here. Quite a bit of rain for August. The pastures are all green, and I know some of you haven't been outside in a while, but the milo is starting to turn from green to auburn browns. Some ponds have some pastures in them. We saw our first corn being picked on the way here. The first combines out in the cornfield, just about 10 miles from here. So it's great to see all that happening as well. Every 2 years, you all get to re-elect a congressman, and this is that time of year doing it, so we're trying to make sure we're out listening to everybody and making sure we're going in the right direction. I'm here today to listen more than to talk. Certainly here to listen about your concerns. If you got a question, I'll do my best to answer it. I tend to keep my answers a little bit shorter and try to go through a lot of issues rather than just get to 2 or 3 of these. So I'll try to answer your questions, and if you got a concern or just a statement, I'm happy to listen as well. I have a couple of folks here with me today, Katie Sawyer and Katie Moore. 2 of my Katies are here today with us on this little tour of north central Kansas. So with that, I'll just stop and sit down and see who's got something they'd like to talk about.
Could we start with the farm bill?
Start with the farm bill. I think it's a great thing.
You're on the conference committee. There's
Right.
significant differences between the House and Senate. Where are you going to be for us?
Sure. And you work in agriculture. Is that your main concern? To try to focus. I can talk about the farm bill the rest of the morning. So as you said, we passed a House farm bill. We passed one on the Senate, and now we're going to go to conference in September. And look forward to working with Senator Roberts to bring those 2 bills together. Crop insurance is fully funded. The Title I funding is fully funded as well. There's a couple little differences in the Farm Bill and the Title I funding. On the PLC side of things, you have your choice again to choose between ARC and PLC. And on the PLC side of things, we're allowing people to have an upside on the House bill, so if the price goes above the PLC point, you can have the advantage of that upside. And another small difference as well is when you're choosing your ARC versus PLC, if you live in a drought 4 area for 20 weeks, you can throw out a bad year as well. And that's not going to impact Washington. I can't remember 20 weeks up here of drought in a row in the past 5 years, but in southwest Kansas, some of those counties we have to throw out a bad year. On the CRP side of things, there's a few differences as well. On the Senate side, let me back up. The baseline for CRP is 25 million acres right now. The Senate bill took it to 27 million, and we took it to 29 million. So we'll have to iron out that difference. There's 2 of the conservation programs, EQIP and CSP, are 2 of the programs we use in agriculture. On our House bill, we roll up CSP into EQIP. But we're not going to stop any contracts. If you have a CSP contract, we'll honor that, but we think it would be more efficient to put them together. The biggest issue in the 2 farm bills is the nutrition side, the SNAP component. And essentially, we have a work training opportunity in ours, and they don't. So we would like to encourage people that if you're on food stamps and between the ages of 18 and 59, if you don't have the disability, we would like for you to work or train to work for 20 hours a week, and we have new funding to help pay for that training. So maybe I'll stop there and ask if you have any specific questions. But those are the biggest differences.
Well, a couple things. Are we going to have the bill held up by SNAP? Because with the tariff considerations right now and the drought and the uncertainty about pricing, that farm bill protection is pretty important. So, do you see a good compromise?
I think there's an 80% chance we'll get it done by September 30th, and that's absolutely, if you would say if I had one central goal for the farm bill, it's to get it done on time. We do it every 5 years. The current farm bill runs out September the 30th, so I think that we can get it done by September 30th. That's certainly my goal. I can't promise that. I can't control it, but that would be you're right. It gives the farmers 5 years of certainty, so I'm going to do my best to get it to the president for his signature before September 30th.
Do you have any comment on the tariff situation?
I do. I think the biggest news is that it sounds like we have an agreement done in principle with Mexico now. So that should be coming across the news line this morning if it's not already. So I think that Mexico and Canada are numbers 1 and 2 customers for agriculture in the United States. China is a distant third when it comes to exports. So I think that getting this first piece of the puzzle done, it's going to let some other pieces of the puzzle come quicker. Certainly I understand the amount of bleeding that's been going on in agriculture and manufacturing from the tariffs. And eventually the tariffs are a tax on consumers, but these other countries would not come to the negotiating table. And I expect these agreements to be much better and much friendlier to agriculture, and in the long run, it'll be good for us. The new agreements were going to help agriculture significantly. But I certainly have communicated to the president how tough these tariffs have been on agriculture, and I think he understands that. Expect to hear something today or tomorrow from the United States Department of Agriculture on this $12 billion of supplement money that the federal government is going to give to farmers who have been hurt from this.
Social Security and Medicare, you're going to support us on that, yes or no?
Yes.
No decreases.
Correct. Future generations, it's going to be, we're going to run out of money though for future generations if we don't start cutting back on the entry point, some of those things. Yes, sir.
You know, you said on the tariffs about in the long run, well, that's old guys are going to make.
This what?
That's old guys are going to make.
Okay.
What about this next generation that's coming up, this young part? Are they going to make it through this?
I think that there'll be some that don't. I think it has a lot to do more than just with tariffs though. I think it's 4 years of depressed economy prices, and doing nothing with the trade agreements, they weren't going to make it either. So in the long run, they were going to slowly bleed. But we're already having people struggling to make it before any of this happened. So I think it's certainly that is my concern as well. I'm very, very concerned about the young farmers. And as I look at CRP and what to do with that, that was one of my top things on my forefront is putting, some people want more CRP, some want less CRP, but I think trying to put that good production land back into CRP to help the young farmer to make it as well. Some other things that we're doing to help the young farmer in the Farm Bill for significant funding for young farmers getting started. We've changed the loan limits as well and improving agriculture. So that's really my concern as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned in the long run we'll be all right, and we just have to, I guess, just persevere. Do you know which state in the United States has the highest rate of Chapter 12 bankruptcies, farm and family bankruptcies on file, the most rapid increase?
I'm sure you're going to tell us.
It's Kansas. It's Kansas. And do you realize the last time we had a trade war or an ag crisis like this was in the 80s with the grain embargo with Russia? And that was when we saw the most consolidations of farms, the most concentration of farmers, and that's when everybody left ag. That was the big first exodus of farmers, and that's when my family had it pretty tough. We had old Billy Nelson come out and do the farm aid program. How is this any different? Today, with this trade war, which I believe is unnecessary, and with the fact that Chapter 12 bankruptcies are on the rise, with the fact that there is no NAFTA in sight, because even if you got NAFTA done today, there's still 90 days on fast track for NAFTA to be signed. And Canada has laid out, they're not even in the negotiation process right now. What do we do in the meantime, other than look back at the 80s and start singing John Cougar Mellencamp songs? No, what do we do?
Go ahead. I'm going to let other people.
He yielded a question. My question was, what do we do? The family farmers that are struggling, what do we do? Because there is no farm bill, there is no NAFTA. Trade negotiations are failing across the board. What do we do?
I think I've already answered the question. I answered the question for this lady.
Then let me ask that. You said that the farm bill that the House passed, you passed on partisan lines, not a single Democrat signed on, and you said that you're very close to the Senate bill. Pat Roberts would disagree. Pat Roberts has a bipartisan farm bill. The chasm between the House farm bill and the Senate farm bill is unbroachable. It is such a great divide, but I wish you luck, Congressman, I wish you luck. But they are so different in so many ways. And the SNAP program, that's a non-negotiable for you, right? That is a non-negotiable for Pat Roberts, too. So how do you compromise on that?
I'm gonna try to get, other people came here to have their piece, to ask their
Does
question.
anybody else want to know the answer to that question?
I'd like to know.
I think I've already answered that,
I don't-
several times.
No, I asked what do we do. I asked what do we do. You say what you're doing. What do we do, Congressman? What do we do?
To which part of it?
While we're running out of money and we can't put our grain anywhere but on the ground and store it in steel bins that we can't afford anymore, and we don't have trading partners, and the trade war is actually going longer, what do we do? What do we do when we can't get a loan from the bank because the interest rates are rising because the banker won't give us money? What do we do? That's the question. What do we do? You said in the long run we'll be fine. Some of us will be. Some of us. But like in the 80s, a few will be fine, and everybody else is going to have to get a second, third, fourth job if they can even hold on to their land. What do we do?
You know, again, I think I've already answered the question.
I don't think you're out.
Okay, I'm gonna talk for a second, is that all right? Or you wanna
Yes,
keep
sir.
interrupting me? Okay. I think that first of all, we have a farm bill that's still working right now. It's due September the 30th. So I've worked very hard to make sure we pass it. I think it's very, very optimistic that we'll get it passed. As far as trade goes, I've worked very hard on securing future trade agreements. We got a major announcement today that we have an agreement done with Mexico in principle. I think
I've
that
heard Trump say that crap before about these things. You gonna believe him?
they have-
Facts
The
are.
Mexican deal's on auto parts. The Mexican deal's on auto parts.
Okay, Mexico's already said it's agreed to.
On auto parts.
You'll read the headlines the rest of the day that Mexico is done in principle. So I'm gonna keep working on these trade agreements. No one has worked harder on getting these trade agreements done
I hear other
than
people
I
say
have.
that. No one's worked harder. And yet farmers are closing down. Farmers are selling out. Dairy farmers in Western Kansas are committing suicide. Because people right now are telling them, if you're a dairy farmer, best thing you can do is sell out today. Get what you can and get out. If you're,
The ones in Washington County are expanding.
I don't know which ones. I mean, maybe there's a couple of them that are getting bigger, but I know a lot of them that can't make it. My dad couldn't make it, and he was the hardest working man I've ever known.
Family farmer dairy is making it. The conglomerates aren't.
My last question would be, you and I, let me ask you this. Do you think that you're going to beat your challenger in November?
Yes,
Do you see your challenger as equal?
as a person, yes.
As a person running for Congress, is your challenger equal?
I don't think the challenger has much of a chance of winning,
Based on what?
based upon results from 2 years ago, based upon recent polling.
Are you going to debate your challenger?
Yes.
When and where?
I think they're working on a date in October on television.
There are 63 counties. That television one is in Wichita. Are you going to debate him in the district, anywhere, anytime? Ever?
We're looking at it.
That's not an answer. When you ran against Huel's count, your biggest grief that you confided with me was that the sumbitch wouldn't debate you. He would never debate you. You were mad at him. And now, how are you different? Because you refused to debate me. There's a debate tomorrow night you refused to go to. It's right next door to your office.
We came to hear the congressman give us an answer to our questions. We didn't come for a debate. I'm sorry, that's not the place for this.
It's not a debate. I'm asking
Let's
when
hear
you're-
some other questions for the congressman.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you elaborate a little more on the small business loan that you guys are working on with that legislation?
On the small business loans? Yeah, exactly. So I'm on the small business committee, and what I've always tried to do is to go out and see, what's working and what's not working. We work quite a bit with veterans and minorities and women as well. I think that we've had increased funding for those. I think that they are working. I think there's, 6 or 7 small business offices around the district now that are trying to help people get going. One of my favorites one is with the veterans. He wants to sell boots too.
There's a program in Fort Riley called Boost Business, and they work directly with veterans. And it's not just at Fort Riley, it's a national program run through the Small Business Administration.
So we're meeting actually with the state office this afternoon, tomorrow. Tomorrow, just trying to see, well, how are you doing? Trying to hold them accountable. I'm not satisfied. I think there's more that could be done. Yep, have you used it before, know much about them?
I had not used it before. I just kind of, when I heard your food in town, I was kind of looking through the different things that you would sponsor.
That's easy.
That kind of caught my eye. Like being in a small town, it's kind of important to know what opportunities are there for small town business and for other people who want to open a business, like what I could do to help them kind of find a niche.
You bet. Yeah, and so if you'll give a business card to Katie, she can try to keep you in the pipeline as more of them come through. Yes, sir.
I've used them before, and it's a paperwork nightmare. And they have a reputation for that, that if you really work through the SBA on a loan program for a small business, that you have to be ready for the long haul for the paperwork, because it's insane. I've never had to do anything like that. I don't know how I made it through it, but I did. So it was helpful once it was done, but the paperwork was ridiculous. That's been 12 years ago.
Right. And certainly you're not the first person to say that, and one of the things we've charged Administrator McMahon with is just that issue, trying to make it simpler. And I'd like to think it's simpler today than it was 4 years ago. I think we're going in the right direction, but that's certainly a constant theme, no matter what government program you're talking about, is this paperwork shuffle.
Congressman. All right, you're in a healthcare setting,
Okay.
so healthcare question. Block grants, block grant funding for healthcare. Can you kind of tell me your stance on that? Because I'll be honest, terrifies me. The reason being that we nursing home administrators have voted in favor and put our faith in Congress to, we pitched in, we taxed ourselves essentially per bed in our facilities, gave that money expecting to get matching funds through bed tax assessment, or is what it was called. And we were supposed to receive the matching proceeds of that back, and that was supposed to be our Medicaid increase. However, that general fund went to the state, and we never saw an ounce of it. We were supposed to have a 10% increase, and instead we had a 4.8% cut that has not been reinstated.
Okay. So in general, using block grants would not be my first choice for healthcare. I really don't see any legislation going forward at this time that would be doing that. I think it's a very small part of the puzzle. You know, my biggest concern would be what percentage of your people living here are on Medicaid?
70% is the state average.
Right. So what can we do to improve that situation where so many people don't end up on welfare that end up on Medicaid and they end up in a nursing home? So that's, you know, a puzzle I'd like to walk. I would say that I don't think Washington's going to solve the problem, but the block grants would not be my first choice.
Along that same line though, I mean, for decades now, Congress has been taking the money that was supposed to be, we're paying in for Social Security and Medicare, and all that money's being used for other things because it's never been able to build itself. And now you're telling us their money's running out, not because the money, we're not paying the money, but our money that's supposed to be going to Social Security and Medicare being used for other things. I mean, now it's probably just paying for Social Security, and it's not enough, because Congress was told too much money to begin with. And I'm not gonna call it, you know, illegal, but it was unfair for everybody, not just now, but in the future, that's been paying into Social Security that will never see it. What is being done to help those people out, which goes to the same thing that we're talking about here. Congress does a bad job of using the money what it's been earmarked for. They take the money from us and then do something else with it.
Amen.
Yep. I absolutely understand exactly what you're saying. I'm not proud of that. Certainly something I walked into.
And I realize you're not, that's not, but somebody has to step up and fix it. We can't just let it keep going. Otherwise, why call it Social Security? Why not just call it a plain tax? Just say, we've increased your taxes, you know, 6 or 7 or 8 or 12%. You know, we call it Social Security, but that's not what it is.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
You're right. You're perfectly accurate. I agree. Now it's just how do we fix that problem?
Exactly.
So the biggest challenge to start with is that we're spending 28% of our federal dollars on health care. And until we start driving the cost of health care down, it's going to be really hard to address that. So I'm trying to introduce principles that would start driving down the cost of health care, things like expanding health care savings accounts. I've got a question over here, I think.
Yes, I did. Thank you for coming. My name is Arlene Clayton. My great-grandfather, Worley, settled here in Washington County after he was discharged from the Civil War, where he fought in the state of Georgia. And my parents, and my mother's parents, and my father's parents went through all types of agriculture disasters, but yet they made it. They made it until they passed away and the family farms passed on to other persons who are now crying about the condition of agriculture and the condition of health care. I am so very glad that she brought up the condition of health care in the state of Kansas, because KDAD is in an absolute tizzy about the lack of competent employees that can go out to the nursing facilities and do a competent survey of their medication charts.
Thanks for your comments.
You mentioned at your opening statement that this was a campaign event because we're in an election cycle. Who's paying for this event?
It's not a campaign event.
That's the first thing you said.
No, I said that every 2 years people get to decide what type of jobs I do.
So who's paying for this event?
I believe there's a cost with it.
So this is a legislative meeting, not a campaign event.
Yes.
Have you had any campaign events at all?
Yes.
Where? Because I never saw them posted. Everything I've seen so far has been a legislative event paid for out of your MRA.
We have lots of campaign events. We don't post those on our social media.
It's a campaign event. Why wouldn't you post it on social media?
Because it's not open to the public.
A campaign event isn't open to the public.
No.
I don't think you understand the concept of a campaign event then. A campaign event is supposed to so the voters can hear your issues. A campaign event is for all people, not Republicans.
What is your idea of a campaign event?
You're typically a fundraiser where I'm trying to.
That's a campaign event, a fundraiser.
Fundraiser is a type of a campaign.
But if you're not running against anybody that can win, why are you raising money in Wichita with John Boehner? I was there. Why are you raising vast sums of money? Over $1 million now. Why are you raising it if you don't even have a challenger?
I'm just curious. I have a small